Hi class, in this quick video, I want to go over your syllabus for the class. Syllabus is really important just to make sure you understand what's expected of you and what you can expect of me. So I'll show you where you can find your syllabus here in Canvas. Everything we do in class is going to be centered around Canvas. So if you've been in Canvas, which you should have, obviously if you're seeing this video, you're in Canvas. This is your homepage, and this is kind of where it all starts. If you want to get to your syllabus, you're going to look over here on the left-hand side, and there will be a tab that says syllabus. So simply click on that, and here's all the information in your syllabus is right here. Or if you prefer to download a Word document version of it, you can click right here and download the Word document version of it. I'm going to go ahead and show you that Word document version of it, and we'll go through it together. So hopefully you're seeing the Word document version right here. And this is what you're doing. This is our class, Introduction to Criminal Justice and Law Enforcement. It's 3 units. The course description, which is basically from the catalog, is this is an introduction and an overview of the American criminal justice system. The American criminal justice system is huge. There's so much we could talk about. This is just an overview and an introduction. So we're really just going to scratch the surface. We're going to talk about really interesting things like criminal justice reform, which is really hot in the media and, in kind of at the forefront of our minds right now with everything that's happened over the last year with the riots, the protests, all those things. So we're going to talk about that, but we're not going to be able to go into ton of detail on all those things because that could be a whole class in and of itself. We're going to talk about gangs, which is always fascinating. We're going to talk about drugs. We're going to talk about the court system, the prison system, corrections, all these things. But again, all of these individual topics really could be a class in and of themselves. And so just as a reminder, it might feel overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, there's so much information we're going to be covering. Again, we're just doing an overview and kind of an introduction to all these things. So I want to introduce you to all these different topics because they're really interesting, but I'm not going to expect you to be an expert on everything, obviously, right? We're just going through this as an introduction. Your textbook, which you must have and hopefully you already do have, is by a guy by the name of Hess. It's an introduction to law enforcement and criminal justice, the 12th edition. So your school should have provided that to you, and you should have the textbook, which you will absolutely need. Here's the student learning outcomes. I'm not going to read those to you. You can read those yourselves, but that's basically the goal by the end of the class. These are some of the things that we should have accomplished if I was successful and you were successful. Methods of teaching. So you're going to have to be in Canvas because this class is going to be 100% online. So you're going to have to be in Canvas. You're going to have the internet to be able to use the Canvas online learning management platform, right? This course is going to consist of online lectures through Zoom. We're going to do discussion posts. We're going to have course projects, assignments, and you're going to have to do outside class reading, right? You're going to have to read your textbook on your own, and you're going to have to do some assignments on your own. I'll get to the kind of course requirements here in a bit. Contact me, please email me, reach out often, frequently. Any questions you have, send me either an email, which my email again is at the top of here. You can email me right there, dwilkinson@fullcall.edu, or you could just send me a message through Canvas. Canvas has a really good messaging system. You just click on the inbox, send a message to me as your instructor, and that'd be great. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible, but I want to connect with you and interact and be responsive. So that's my promise to you, is that I will respond. If you email me, I'll definitely respond. Here's kind of the important stuff, the nuts and bolts of our class is the course evaluation and assessment, the grading criteria. There will be 1,000 points in this class over the whole semester, right? 1,000, that's a lot, but here's the breakdown. For the discussion posts, it's going to be 175 total points. That is 7 discussion posts worth 25 points each. So that's where I get the 175, right? So each module, which is about every 2 weeks, you're going to have a discussion post worth 25 points. And that's where those points come from. Quizzes, there's going to be, I believe, 6 quizzes throughout the semester, worth a total of 250. I think the first quiz is only worth 30 points. One of the other quizzes is worth 50. Another one's worth 40. So they kind of range in how many points each quiz is worth. But as a total, throughout the semester, you're going to have quizzes worth 250 points. My quizzes are really, the purpose of them is mostly accountability. Hey, are you reading the textbook? Are you following along? Because if you are, you're going to pass the quiz, no problem. The quizzes are open book, so you can have your textbook in front of you. You can look up the answers, and you really shouldn't have any issue with the quizzes. They're not timed, so take your time as much as you need. And here's the other thing on the quizzes. I let you retake it if you don't get the score that you want. So there's really no excuse for you not to do well on the quiz. So don't be intimidated by that 250 points or the 25% of your grade, because that's up to you. If you want to get a perfect score on every one, there's no reason you can't, because you can take the quiz as many times as you want until you get the perfect score. So that's kind of up to you. Don't be lazy. If you have the textbook, do the quiz, you'll be able to pass them effortlessly without any issues. Assignments, 125 points for assignments. That is going to be 5 different assignments worth 25 points each. Those are going to be current events. Okay, so we're going to do some current events, kind of stay up to date with what is happening in law enforcement in our world. And man, last semester, so much to write about, right? There's so much going on. We had so many police shootings, uses of force, protests, riots, and all that, to just court cases, which are very relevant to the criminal justice system. So many things. And then we had coronavirus, which really affected law enforcement as well, right? We had the coronavirus, which all of a sudden some people are like, we need to get all of the inmates out of jail because jail isn't safe for them because of the coronavirus. And then so that was a crazy thing. You had all kinds of different things happening in the world this last semester. And although I hope this year and this semester for you is much calmer now that we're in 2021, I don't know that it will be. It might be just as crazy. So I'm sure the news will provide plenty of information or things for us to talk about and analyze. And so that's what those assignments are. Those are mostly going to be current events. Lecture notes, because we are not able to meet live and interact personally, I'm going to require you to take notes on the lectures. So we're going to have lectures just in videos. You can watch them whenever you want. I'm just asking you to take notes. You could take them on pen and paper. You could take them on, you could even take them on your phone, honestly. I don't recommend that because it's hard to type on your phone probably, but you could type them on the computer. However you want to do it, I don't care. The notes are mostly for you, but you are going to have to turn them in. So if you write down on paper, you could just take a picture of it with your phone and email me that picture. Hey, look, here's my notes. Or you can just type it out and then email me the Word document. That would probably be the easiest thing to do. But however you want to do it, the main point is you just need to take notes for each of the lectures. So there's going to be a whole bunch of different lectures throughout the semester. You need to watch them and take notes. And again, you turning in the notes basically just is accountability for the fact that you watch the lectures and are there and are actively involved in the class. There's a midterm assignment, which will be 100 points. There's a final paper, which will be 100 points. And then the final exam will be 100 points. Okay. So that's kind of the breakdown of the class, what we're looking at. And then pretty standard, if you get 90 to 100%, you get an A, 80 to 89 is a B, and so forth and so on. I pretty much already talked about the details on the quizzes and examinations. Here's a little bit more information for you. Assignments, final paper, lecture notes, all those things. This is important, late work. I know sometimes when you're taking these online classes, you're not meeting with me, week to week in the class. And so it could be easy to just actually completely forget about the class. Don't do that. Don't forget about me. Don't forget about our class, right? You need to be involved doing something each week. And there are due dates on your discussion post and due dates on the assignments and due dates on the quizzes. So don't be late. That is the one thing that can kind of get you in trouble here in this class, is if you fall behind, because the class is definitely manageable. I'm not going to burden you or overwhelm you with a ton of work or anything like that. And but you do have to keep up, and I don't want you to fall behind. So if you just do a little bit every week, you'll just cruise through the class all semester and not have any issues at all. If you do end up with late homework, I will accept it, right? My main goal is that you do it. I want you to do it because I'm not giving you just busy work for busy work. I think you'll benefit and you'll gain something from each assignment and each thing that I give you. So I will accept the late work because I want you to do it. But I do, just to be fair to the people who do it on time, I will mark you down some points for late work. So if you're up to 1 week late, you'll probably be marked down 2 points. 1 to 2 weeks late, down 3 points. 2 to 3 weeks late, down 4 points, and so forth and so on. So again, not a huge deal, right? That's pretty minimal for the most part. it's so, but again, the point is to do the work and try to do it on time and don't be late because your grade will be affected if you turn in a bunch of things late. Um, Attendance policy, again, this is an online course, so you're not required to show up anywhere or at any time. However, you do need to actively and weekly be engaged in Canvas, okay? There is a convenient little thing for me as an instructor to see how much time you're in Canvas and whatnot. So if you're not in Canvas at all and you're not engaging in the class, I'll be able to see that, right? And on the flip side, if you are, then I'll see that as well, which is great. So failure to log into Canvas, watch lectures, submit discussion posts, and complete assignments in the first weeks of class may result in the instructor dropping the student from the class. And that's actually for your benefit. I don't want you to fail a class that you never showed up to. So obviously if you're watching this video, you're in Canvas already. This doesn't apply to you, but I have to put that in the syllabus anyway. Here's one thing. I may offer some live online lectures throughout the semester. I would love to be on Zoom with you, interact with you, ask you questions, you ask me questions. However, I can't require that, so that will be an optional thing. So I do plan to maybe do that, especially if I can get some guest speakers to join us, then I'd like you guys to be live with me on Zoom. However, I will not require that, but just look out for that. I'll send messages ahead of time so you can plan accordingly. And hopefully we could figure out a time that would work for everybody to be there. Additional credit or extra credit. If you need it at any point in the semester, reach out to me. I'll be happy to give you options for doing that, but I don't think you should need it because I think you'll be able to pass everything that I give you and get good grades no matter what. And that covers your syllabus. So, oh, one more thing. Here's our course topics and modules. So our course is broken up into 7 modules. Modules is kind of a common thing within Canvas. Hopefully you've experienced it already. But basically, we have 7 2-week modules. So our first module is going to be an overview of policing and law enforcement, right? Second module is going to be the history of policing and law enforcement. Third one is going to be crime, gangs, drugs. Then the fourth one, we're going to have policing within the law and police conduct issues. Then you guys get a spring break, which isn't bad. And then you'll be on some patrol operations and specialized roles of police in module 5. After that, we're going to talk about courts, custody, and corrections in module 6. And our final module will just be kind of a review and a recap, and also a talk about careers in criminal justice and law enforcement. We're going to cover the different types of careers and within criminal justice and law enforcement throughout the semester, but this will be kind of a final point where we rest on is if any of you are interested in those types of careers or those types of jobs in the future, we'll talk a lot more about that towards the end of the class. And then of course we have our finals week after that, which is when you'll take your final exam. That covers that, and that is your syllabus. If you have any questions, reach out to me, let me know. I'll be happy to answer those. If anything's unclear, I will not be offended if you say, hey, what you wrote doesn't make sense or what you said doesn't make sense, and I will be happy to clarify that for you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you watched it, and I'll see you next time.